in April. There's been this story, and Greg Norman leading the way along with billions of dollars from Saudi Arabia to define a super tour. And no matter who has been saying they're not interested, there were more interested than not, including Phil Mickelson. We read the quote last week about what he said about the Saudi Arabians, and yet said he wanted to use leverage of the tour against the PGA Tour. I'm going to start this off. Art Stricklin from a PGA Tour golf analyst and columnist joins us. Art, I'm going to read this quote from a PGA Tour golfer. Phil only cares for Phil. Always has, always will. People don't change. We have known him to be this way, and now the world does. He's going to try and frame this eventually that he's helping all of us by jumping on the grenade. We have problems all throughout the tour. And all this league is doing is trying to help make changes. Is that the way most people feel about Mickelson?
I think that's the way the most players feel about Mickelson. He's a very interesting guy, Smokey, because, I go to a ton of PGA Tour events.
Yep.
Have for 20 years. Nobody on the tour signs more autographs for kids and for people than Phil Mickelson. Nobody. It's not even close. I have personally seen him do more nice things for people in a wheelchair, people there at the tour. So there is some, there's some goodness about him, but there's no way to get out of what he's trying to do here. And the quote that you read, was really very Machiavellian, very conniving. I just don't see how that helps him. And the tide has turned. If he was the first guy to go and then all these other guys followed him, then you could say he's a trendsetter. But pretty much every big name, whether it be Bryson, whether it be Rory, Tiger, anybody really, has said no dice to the Saudi and their money because they care about legacy. I talked to Lee Trevino today in Dallas. He just had lunch with President Bush, and so I called him after that. He just said legacy is a 2-decade thing. Players care about their legacy, and they care about the legacy behind them. And so these players, whether it be Spieth or Rory or Dustin Johnson, they want to be known as a great golfer now, and they want to be known as a great golfer to the next generation that's coming behind them. And that's why none of them are taking the Saudi money, and they're going to play with the best players in the world here in America. All
right, before we get anywhere, I want to make sure we did mention Juwan Howard, Michigan, has suspended their men's basketball coach for the rest of the regular season. Not the Big Ten, but Michigan, perhaps the Big Ten telling Michigan, hey, it's your call. We'll see what Wisconsin does. We'll also figure out whatever happens to any players who landed any punches as well. But I wanted to throw that in there, that Michigan has suspended Juwan Howard for the rest of the regular season. Dan Wetzel had that story, Yahoo Sports first. Paul?
Okay, all right. Now, if Phil does wind up in the Saudi Golf League, winds up falling apart, which it looks like it's not going well for them after all the PGA, like DeChambeau coming back. The issues that Phil is trying to say that he is heroically standing up for as opposed to cashing a very large check. What are those issues and how can they work them out so that the tour and the players don't have them anymore?
Oh, there's no major, the players want money, big shock there. That's why they came up with that, what do they call that, the PIP, the personality profile this year. They gave $40 million to players that had the most Twitter followers or the most Instagram followers. That's something that Jerk came up with because of this Saudi threat. And so they went to that. I think the other thing players would like to see, and, this would be a good thing, is to mix it up some in the fall. Do a mixed team event. Do an event with them and maybe one of their sponsors. Do an event with, match play. Change it up a little bit. And, what the tour players want, they want guaranteed money. And that's why they love the World Golf Championship events. That's why they love the fall events because, golf and tennis are really the only two sports. If you do not succeed that particular week, you do not get paid. and you miss the cut in the PGA Tour, you don't get paid. And so players want more guaranteed money because that puts them on the kind of the same level as basketball, football players that get paid regardless where they win, lose, or how they do. And so that's really what the biggest change is. More diversity of events, more off-site money, which is what this PIP is, and then more guaranteed money. Those are three things that, the players would really like to see.
All right, so Bryson DeChambeau yesterday, he, after DJ, Dustin Johnson, among others, released a statement. Well, there has been a lot of speculation. He basically said if the other – it's a long damn thing. It seemed like he was doubling back. Do you agree with what he said? There's a lot of speculation. As long as the other great players are going to be on the other tour, I'm not going to go. Isn't that basically what he's saying?
Yeah, and I think all the guys feel that. I mean, if everybody can release the same statement. If all the best players were in Saudi Arabia playing, well, then so would Bryson, so would Rory, so would everybody. The fact is they're not going to do that because, A, the money is great here in America. B, there's not the kind of blowback you would get from your sponsors, from your fans if you went to Saudi Arabia. Let's face it, they don't have the greatest PR, and taking their money is not the greatest move for your image. And 3, it's in Saudi Arabia, Smokey. I mean, we've got tournaments here in Dallas and Fort Worth, and you mentioned West Palm and Augusta, places that people can go to, they can drive to, they can, take their friends to. Nobody's flying to Saudi Arabia to see Phil Mickelson and Bryson DeChambeau and Jimmy Walker play. I mean, that's not going to happen. So that's why they're all staying in America. The money is good, the access is good, and, it's easy to get to.
I tell you what, I thought of everybody. I saw Fred Couples on Twitter throughout the weekend. He wasn't holding back either, among others. And I did have a PGA Tour pro tell me, listen, I'm not all that thrilled sometimes with the PGA Tour myself, but they're trying to work it out. But Rory McIlroy took the sledgehammer to basically anybody, including Phil Mickelson, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And he got that from Tiger because Tiger took the sledgehammer. Because, face it, Tiger's not going to play 20 events ever again. He'll play 4 or 5, but if Tiger had said, hey, when I get well, I'm going to consider the Saudi offer. I've always wanted to go there, got fans there. I'll go to Saudi as soon as I get healthy. Then all those other players would have said the same thing. When Tiger said he's not going at any time, and Rory said what he said at any time, let's face it, that's the alpha. That's the alpha males on the tour right now. Guys like Rory, guys like Tiger, not Phil. Phil's a gadfly who has done some nice things, as I mentioned, but he's certainly not a leader on the tour. He's not very popular on the tour. Tiger is the guy they idolize, and they idolize him still. And when he says something, that still goes for those guys.
All right, Art Stricklin. Anything else that they're going to Florida? They're about to. This is the tune-up as people start to get ready for the great run with the Masters as well. Nice win for. Oh my God, I just went blank. Oh my Lord, the winner, the young man from Spain,
Joaquin Neiman from Chile.
Chile,
yeah. But last week, Scotty Scheffler, Dallas kid, University of Texas golfer. So. Shaping up, I mean, you could say this every year, but it's shaping up to be a great Masters. You got guys like Spieth, who is money at the Masters. You got Scotty Scheffler, who beat the living heck out of John Rahm at the Ryder Cup, coming to the Masters, playing Rahm. You got Hideki Matsuyama, who won last year and has won several times internationally since then. So, shaping out to be a great Master, so I guess I'm taking 10 people with me from the Art of Golf in April.
Yeah, and go ahead and give everybody that website or how they can contact you for those trips that you go on that are amazing.
Yeah, well, thank you. It's too late for this year to go step. If you want to go next year, if you want to go to the PGA Championship at Southern Hills in Tulsa, an easy drive from Waco, www.theartofgolftravel.com.
And you see that-
www.theartofgolftravel.com.
And then the Twitter handle, you can get a hold of Art at Art Stricklin as well. Art, thank you very much for your time. Art, former Baylor alum as well. Appreciate the time. So it's Dustin Johnson, Rory McIlroy. You mentioned Brooks Koepka, Colin Morikawa, John Rahm, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, among others, who have all said, no, I'm not. That doesn't mean they weren't flirting too. Some of them. There were thoughts that Dustin Johnson, DeChambeau, we know Mickelson, were at least intrigued.
Do you think that DeChambeau thought that maybe they'll like me better in Saudi Arabia?
Well, that's what a report actually said. One of the reasons he may want to play there. Yeah, when you have...
Well, he's never going to be liked by golf fans here, really.
You know who
unless he
embraces not being liked? Patrick Reed. He just said, the hell with it. People don't like me. I'm just going to go win tournaments on occasion.
Yeah,
They've
or
accused
there's
him of
nothing,
cheating.
There's, when you refuse to alter your behavior, you can call it not caring, or you could just call it,
Well, I give credit to the guys who decided that it wasn't all about money. I mean, look, they're still millionaires, so it's not like pretend like they're, paupers who are turning down millions of dollars and would become rich. I mean, they're still rich regardless. It's just, are they filthy rich? Because that's basically what Saudi Arabia would provide. And I told the story about, the WWE and how they started running events in Saudi Arabia a couple years back, and now they went from running one, which was like a really big deal when they first began it, to now running a couple a year there. And why? Hundreds of millions of dollars go their way because of those Saudi Arabia deals, despite any backlash they get because of human rights issues or the fact that when their women wrestlers go to the country, originally they weren't even allowed to perform. And then when they were finally allowed to perform, of course, they had to be covered head to toe.
Yep.
And, so they had adhered to that. But, they basically did. They said, human rights, and, whatever else people complain about when it comes to Saudi Arabia, we're going to make bunches of money. And so that's what they've done. And I figured there would probably be some PGA guys that would be tempted by that. Sure seems like there were, but they're mostly, it all appears to be staying under the PGA umbrella. I think, for the country, for the sport, it's probably the better thing, but it'll be very interesting to see how that continues to play out, especially with so much money involved.
No question about it. And